You have made it to Understanding EMDR Therapy for Children, a trauma-informed guide. I just wanted to make a little asterisk here is that today, unfortunately, you will not be getting trained in EMDR therapy. So I just want to make sure that we know that today's training's purpose is not for you to be certified in EMDR therapy. It's really to make sure that looking through the kiddos who are going through your organization, who are receiving your services, finding if EMDR therapy is perfect for them, if this is something that would help them heal, if it's something that would be better for their family, whatever it may be. I just want to make sure that we put that little note out there that unfortunately today you will not be leaving with being EMDR certified, okay? But you will leave today with so much knowledge and hopefully inspiration to become EMDR certified. So that way you can help families and kiddos around you. So let's talk about our wonderful presenter today. On the next slide, it is Christine Mark-Griffin. She's internationally acclaimed expert in EMDR therapy for children. She's the owner of Spark All Wellness, a private group practice specializing in EMDR, play therapy, and trauma-informed yoga therapy with women and children. And she's also the author of an award-winning EMDR workbook for kids. So we have a very special presenter here for you today. And she's going to give you some wonderful information. I'm sure you are so tired of hearing my voice, but I will go ahead and turn it over to Christine. So welcome, Christine.
Thanks so much, Casey. Hello, everyone, and good morning. I so appreciate that sweet introduction. So, a little bit more about me. I am a licensed clinical social worker by training. I went ahead and I fell in love with EMDR after I was working in child welfare for quite some time in the foster care system with kids and also in the school-based systems. And I was working with so many kids who are dealing with trauma. And it wasn't until I went to an EMDR basic training and learned about it that I was fully in, and I was starting to see effects, starting to see healing within children rather quickly. So I have gone full into EMDR. I am an EMDR advanced trainer. I am an international EMDR consultant, consulting with agencies as well as individuals in becoming certified. I'm a registered play therapist, so I often combine EMDR with play therapy. I'm also certified in trauma play. And you mentioned, Casey mentioned that I like combining these three modalities: trauma yoga, play therapy, and EMDR. I think they are wonderful complements to each other. But today we'll be focusing on EMDR. So let's get started. Like Casey mentioned, today you're not going to be trained in EMDR. It's actually a pretty comprehensive training. So those of you who are clinicians in the audience today, I hope this inspires you. And maybe if you're what I call EMDR curious, you learn a little bit more today and you get some additional training to get that training for EMDR to provide it. Today is really going to be a general overview of what EMDR is and how it can be adapted to support kids. So I'm going to start with a little story of EMDR. Let's do a little story time. So once upon a time, a psychologist and researcher named Francine Shapiro, who loved to walk outside, especially when her heart felt heavy or her mind felt busy. One day, while Francine was walking in the park, she noticed that her eyes were moving back and forth. Left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, right, left. She was following the trees, she was following the birds. And as she was doing this, she noticed that she felt better and she wasn't as worried anymore. So, as a researcher, Francine wondered if moving her eyes back and forward made her feel better. Was it the cause of this change? So Francine was a helper and she wanted to understand this magic a little bit more. She began to study it to see if this intervention might work. She invited people who felt sad. She initially started with friends and family, and she invited them to think about a hard memory while moving their eyes back and forth, side to side. To her amazement, people began to feel better and calmer. Their painful memories started to feel less sharp. Their hearts felt a little braver. They felt a little stronger. Francine realized that she had discovered something special. She gave it a name, EMDR, which stands for Eye Movement Desensitization Reprocessing. That's a big mouthful, but really what it means is it's helping our brains, our bodies, and our hearts heal from problems and bothers so that they don't bother us anymore. Francine originally created this as a trauma treatment and tested it on combat veterans. And to her surprise, it worked incredibly well. Over time, Francine taught this healing method to helpers all over the world. And now we know that EMDR not only helps veterans, but also adults and children who struggle with PTSD, trauma, depression, anxiety, and much more. Today, children and grown-ups alike use EMDR with their therapists to feel safe, strong, and free from those big feelings that once weighed them down. So, Francine's walk in the park turned into a gift that keeps helping people everywhere. So you heard that big mouthful. EMDR stands for Eye Movement Desensitization Reprocessing. And it helps people heal from distressing and traumatic memories using back and forth movement, often called or referred to as bilateral stimulation. With kids, and honestly with grown-ups, I just say back and forth movement. It's easier to understand. EMDR is recognized by the World Health Organization as one of the top trauma treatments, and it is used worldwide across several different countries and different cultures. When Francine was interviewed about EMDR, she said that if she were to go back and rename EMDR therapy, she would have simply named it reprocessing therapy. But by then it was too late. EMDR had already stuck. The name had already caught on. I'm going to invite you to use your interaction now. Give me a thumbs up if you've heard of EMDR before, experienced it before. Maybe you saw it on TikTok, Miley Cyrus. Maybe you saw Oprah and Prince Harry or Meghan Markle talking about it. You've heard about it somewhere. Okay, so I have a few thumbs up. Great. The information, and I love that celebrities and people are starting to talk about EMDR and how it has been useful and helpful for them. But I want to acknowledge there are also lots of common misconceptions about EMDR out there. So I'm just going to do a little overview of the most common ones and give you some fun facts. The first thing I often hear is EMDR, that's just moving your eyes, right? You just move your eyes back and forth and you feel better. The reality of it is, while moving our eyes or moving your eyes are one part of EMDR, they're just one form of bilateral stimulation. We're going to learn a lot more about some other types throughout today's presentation. And EMDR is actually an entire comprehensive treatment model, and the eye movement and bilateral stimulation is just one part. And actually, here's another fun fact. Did you know that when you go to sleep, your eyes move rapidly back and forth? It's called REM sleep. So that rapid eye movement is a cycle of sleep. And during REM, our brains become very active. Our eyes move back and forth underneath our eyelids. And REM sleep is often associated with vivid dreams and intense dreams. REM sleep is also considered essential for cognitive functioning, memory consolidation, emotional regulation, and creativity. It plays a big role in brain development. And so it is believed that the bilateral stimulation in EMDR may mimic this similar process in our REM sleep. Okay, myth number 2, EMDR is only for PTSD. The reality of it is, originally, the first research study ever published on EMDR was done on veterans with PTSD. However, since it has been discovered, it has found to be really effective with several other populations and several other mental health problems for both adults and for kids. Right. Well, you're here because the title of the presentation is EMDR for kids. And one of the common misconceptions, even in the EMDR world, I just went to an EMDR conference and had a booth with my books and information and resources for EMDR with kids. And there were adult EMDR therapists who come up and say, I didn't know you could do EMDR with kids. So there is a myth out there that EMDR is only for kids. And what I will say is, in the beginning, like most therapy modalities, if you think about cognitive behavioral therapy, trauma focused CBT, all of these other modalities of therapy are usually created for adults first, with the exception of play therapy. Play therapy was created for children in mind. Many of the other modalities are created for adults first and then later adapted for children. Because EMDR is newer to the field of psychotherapy, it's kind of like this toddler young child as far as treatment modalities go. We're still learning how to adapt it. Resources are coming out and research is coming out. But there are several EMDR therapists who have been adapting EMDR to be child friendly, combining it with play therapy, and combining it with really child fun techniques to get kids in towards their healing. I love hearing this one. Are you hypnotizing me? What is this EMDR? EMDR, I heard that was mind control or hypnosis. And that's a myth. So EMDR is not hypnosis. Whether clients are children or adults, they are fully aware of what's going on. They are actively participating in the process. While therapists guide and support the process, they're not implanting or removing any memories. In fact, a part of the EMDR protocol is we teach clients to have a stop signal or a stop sign to notify their clinician if they're feeling overwhelmed and if they want to pause the treatment and regulate themselves. So both clients, young and old, are really empowered in the process of EMDR and they get to choose when to start and stop. Right. Touch on the next myth that gets out there. EMDR is really effective and it is known to work fairly quickly. There are studies out there comparing EMDR and CBT and find that both modalities are very effective with children. And the one difference is that EMDR works within half the time in most of these studies. So if a child was getting trauma-focused CBT and for something really challenging, maybe it takes a whole year before they feel better. With EMDR, they might feel better within 6 months. EMDR can work instantly, but it really depends on the person and it depends on the type of trauma. So let's just think about this for a second. If I have someone coming in and their life is well adjusted and going well, but they just had a minor car accident that kind of spooked them, that's not going to take very many therapy sessions, period. Whether it's EMDR or any other type of therapy, it's minor. It isn't something that has been happening over a long period of time with high intensity, right? So if there is, like I say, A less severe trauma, EMDR, can usually work fairly quickly. But as we know, so many of the children that we work with today and so many families that we interact with now have such complex trauma. So EMDR could take a long time, and it just depends on how intense and chronic the trauma has been. Here's the last thing, and hopefully the takeaway that you will have after today. EMDR is only for working on problems. So EMDR, the main standard protocol, is specifically for what we call in EMDR a target problem, or the main presenting problem that we want to work on. But there are also several other protocols within EMDR that can be used as what I like to call with my children feel good EMDR. So there are protocols and exercises that you could do to feel better and feel good. We're going to get an experiential today, so hopefully you'll get to see what that feels like. But there are protocols such as safe calm place or resource developing. So really learning how to have more confidence or feel more patient or feel more courageous or in control. We do a lot of things in EMDR to help people enhance their coping skills and enhance their ability to regulate and feel more stabilized. So here's a quick slide of what EMDR can help kids with beyond PTSD, beyond trauma. Our practice sees so many kiddos that are popping in and out or demonstrating various symptoms, various issues, anger issues, bullying, depression, sleep disturbances. So there are definitely so many things that EMDR can address. And I just put in this slide yesterday night because I wanted to make sure that you all know. I know this is many of us are joining from the state of California, but EMDR is global. It's in Asia, it's in Africa, it's in Latin America, it's in Europe, it's in Australia, it's in Mexico, it's in so many places around the world. And I think this image just goes to show how how effective this modality really is and how it can be adapted cross cultures and cross different places. To date, I want to say there are 17,000 EMDR International Association members. Those are just the members. We train way more than that. There's 10,000 EMDR therapists trained alone in the UK. There are so many associations, and all the associations talk to each other, and they're continuing to advance research and how we can use this with children and families. All right. So here's the first little interactive thing I want you to all try. In EMDR, one of the key components is bilateral stimulation, or what I typically tell kids is back and forth movement. There are actually three types of back and forth movement. There's eye movements, there's tactile, which is touch, essentially, things you could touch. Kids love this one. And there's also auditory, so sounds moving back and forth. There are so many playful ways to help kids learn bilateral stimulation. You can use finger puppets, toys, Play-Doh. I'll give a little demonstration in a bit, but I'm going to have all of you try this. So in the next slide, there's going to be a little eyeball character. And without moving your head side to side, you're just going to move your eyes. I'm going to challenge you to follow the eyeball. It's going to start off slow, and then it's going to get a little faster. In EMDR, we actually help kids practice the slow eye movements and the fast eye movements because different speeds of eye movements actually help for different things. So let's give this a next fun little try. Let's see how fast your eyes can go. And a little faster. Can you keep following? And faster. Just a little faster. Fast, fast, fast. Back and forth with those eyes. All right. So that was just a little demonstration. Typically, in an EMDR session, your therapist will guide you through the eye movements for anywhere from 10 seconds at a time to 30 seconds at a time. And with kids, we usually just practice this and we do it in a lot of fun ways. I'm going to just stop my screen share for a little bit to show you some things that we might do in person with a child. So we might just have them pick a little toy. There's a little crab. So I love using this crab, and I'll just say, let's think about that thing that's making you feel really crabby. And I'm just going to have you follow the crab back and forth with your eyes. And then so usually kids will just move their eyes and follow a toy, whatever it is. Maybe your child loves Bluey and you're going to do a little Bluey eye movement, or really just picking any toy. I have a little skunk here and I'll just finger puppet and I'll just say, let's get rid of those stinky, stinky memories that are stuck in your brain, and we'll be playful with it, and we'll use toys that really spark the child's interests. So the next type of bilateral stimulation I want to share with you, you heard a little bit of that popping sound in the last slide, and we might actually offer kids to put on some headphones and or their AirPods. And there are several different technologies out there now to play sound back and forth. That sound that you heard in the last one was kind of like a funny lip pop. And kids, I don't know why, they just think it's really funny. And there's bell sounds and different sounds that you can listen to as well. But I'm going to show you the next one, which is an example of tactile. Let's give tactile bilateral stimulation a little try. So tactile is one of the most popular, the butterfly hug is the most popular tactile movement in EMDR. It was first created by an EMDR therapist in Mexico named Lucina. And she created this because she started doing group EMDR with victims after Hurricane Pauline. And she developed it as a self-soothing method for trauma survivors. And this bilateral stimulation really helped them to regulate their emotions and then walk groups of people through an EMDR protocol. So I'll walk you through it for a little bit. So what we're first going to do is we're going to put our hands in front of us, and we're going to cross our palms so that our thumbs kind of create this little butterfly shape or bird shape. And you're going to fly this butterfly just right over your heart. And usually you want your fingertips right underneath your collarbone. There's some pressure points there. And what we're going to do is we're going to touch our butterfly wings, the fingertips, slowly left and right, left and right, for about 8 to 10 seconds. I'll stop share here so you can see my full screen. So have your hands right in front of your heart. And I'm just going to invite you to do slow taps with your butterfly, and I'll count you for 10 taps. You ready? 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I invite you to take a full breath in and let it out. So that was an example of slow tactile, but I'm going to invite you to now just to tap those fingers as fast as you can. We're going to do it for about 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop the tapping. Take a big breath in and sigh it out. Usually in EMDR, when we go fast, it's more of an activating bilateral stimulation, and that's useful when we're working on an activating memory. But let's just go back to slow. The fast can feel a little stressful or anxiety provoking. So if you need 8 more, 10 more slow taps, give that a try. And then the audio, you heard the lip pop, and we can use technology. Another thing that can be fun is using musical instruments or bells. Sometimes if you have kids that are old enough and they want to snap their fingers back and forth, they can do that. I like just sharing with kids that they can touch their little earlobes, what is this, a tragus, and just tapping on that if you do it. Your ears. So you could go fast or you could go slow. And for kids with sensory and they like the auditory, they like the sounds, that could be a fun way to do bilateral stimulation with children. So a few more fun things that kids love using. There are lots of technologies out there where for tactile bilateral stimulation, they call them buzzers. And with buzzers, I'm going to just show you what a buzzer will look like for an adult. This is like one of the first old school buzzers that came out there. And what child EMDR therapists will do is they'll put a little puppet on it. So then when these are turned on, the little llamas will buzz back and forth. And kids love this. Sometimes they'll say each buzz is telling them something good or helping them with their problem. I had a child the other day, I'm going to show you. He called them, these are his chicken nuggets that help him with his problem. So he holds his chicken nuggets up to his ears and he gets the tactile as well as um, the no, the tactile part of it, but he's also getting the auditory part of it because he's holding it up to his ears. And he was like, they're telling me it's going to be okay. And he's holding the chicken nuggets. So there are so many fun ways that kids will just use the toys and things to help them. Play-Doh is another great tactile thing for children. They might just take some Play-Doh and they might just create 2 balls and squeeze the Play-Doh in their hands. And that's super sensory. And that's really helpful for them to regulate themselves as they're working on something hard with bilateral stimulation. I'll show you one of my other favorite ones with children. Um, Oversized slinkies. I have kids who just play with the slinky back and forth, and they'll do it fast or slow. And they will just, kids are so creative. They get up and they dance. They want a song and they want to dance and do their back and forth movement with their whole body. Oftentimes, especially for kids who are more high energy, they are doing more than one type of bilateral stimulation at the same time. They might have buzzers in their pockets. There are wireless buzzers. I'll just show you some wireless buzzers here. These can go on the child's hand as they're engaging in EMDR, or they can also slide off and go into a child's pocket for it to buzz back and forth. And these are really good with kids because they can move around the play therapy space and use whatever toys they need to show you what's going on with them. I had a child have these in their pockets and they go over to the dollhouse and play out a scene or play out something that's on their mind that's happening as they're reprocessing a hard memory. And sometimes kids don't have to tell you what's going on. What they'll do is they'll show you through their play. So the combination of the bilateral stimulation tools with play therapy, that's a example right there of how that might work and might look in a session. All right. So now that you've learned all the different types of bilateral stimulation, I'm going to have you try creating a safe, calm place. And instead of me leading you through it, I'm going to have a child lead you through it. So the next video, we have a YouTube channel full of videos for EMDR with kids, and you are welcome to use it as a resource. All the videos are free and up there. This video is up there on the page, but it is creating a safe, calm place and leading you through it. You can pick any type of bilateral stimulation you would like to enhance your safe, calm place that you create. Here we go.
Safe Calm Place by Christine Mark-Griffin. Imagine a place where you feel safe and calm. This place can be real or imagined. For example, it could be a cozy corner of your house or a magical place from your imagination. Use all 5 senses to describe or create your safe, calm place. Sight. What can you see in your place? Sound. What do you hear in your place? Smell. Can you smell anything in your place? Taste. Can you taste anything in your place? Touch. What can you touch or feel in your place? With your EMDR therapist, use back and forth movement to strengthen your safe, calm place. Thank you for watching. Do you have any questions? Comment down below.
Yay. My little niece helped me with that voiceover and she goes, Auntie, am I viral yet on YouTube? Maybe not on YouTube, but maybe with the therapy community. I will say, so how would this work in practice? What would it look like in a child EMDR session? We could do this in a variety of ways. We can help them use their imagination to create a safe, calm place with all 5 of their senses. Some kids like to draw this. Some kids like to create it with toys. I had a kid create their safe, calm place with Legos the other day. And once the child creates it and uses all 5 of their senses and thinks about what they would taste, feel, hear, we then add slow bilateral stimulation. And oftentimes the slow bilateral stimulation is paired with pretending that you're there, pretending that you go there for a moment to help yourself calm down and regulate. Some children will come back and say, I added more things to my safe, calm, happy place. There's talking unicorns now, or there's my favorite superhero, or Spider-Man's in there now to help me. And kids will just come up with what they need and what they need to imagine a place they visit and pretend to go for a minute, for 2 minutes, whenever they feel stress and they start using this with the help of that bilateral stimulation. I kind of say, like, let's tap it in and make it stronger with kids. So let's dive a little bit more into EMDR and what the components of it are. What does it entail? EMDR actually has 8 phases, which we'll go through in a child-friendly way in a moment. But each of these phases is unique. And when you become trained in EMDR, your therapist will take you through these steps. So while many people believe that bilateral stimulation or the back and forth movement is the heart of EMDR, the reality is the heart of EMDR is something we call AIP. The theory and foundation of EMDR is adaptive information processing. So AIP suggests that our brains, all of us, have the natural ability and capability to heal and process after something traumatic and overwhelming has happened. So whenever people experience something really stressful, I'll just use that car accident thing again. You experiencing something really stressful, your body is supposed to feel stress. You're supposed to feel, that just happened. That was so scary. I'm freaked out a little bit. And then hopefully you process it in a way that becomes adaptive. That was a one-time thing. It was an accident. It rarely happens again. I could be safe in the car. And after a few days or after a week, you're back in the car, you're driving, you're good to go. But sometimes an experience will overwhelm our system. And what that looks like is maladaptive. So instead of going to the adaptive, it's over now. The car accident is over. I'm safe. I can keep driving. It's okay. Maladaptive creates all sorts of problems. A maladaptive stored memory may have someone feel like, I'm not safe. I'm not going to do that again. Never again. Afraid of cars, afraid of driving, not going to be going in a car anytime soon. And perhaps this goes on and on and on for weeks or months. These memories get stuck. And not only do the memories get stuck, it becomes kind of a template for everything else. So when I see a car, when I hear a car, if I know I have to get in a car, even if that car accident happened 4 months ago, I'm still getting activated. I'm still feeling stressed every time I have to interact with a situation. And I'm using the example of a car accident, but imagine maladaptively stored memories for many other things. So if we're going off this component of memory, and EMDR is, an AIP is based off of maladaptive memories that are stored within us, what are those components? This is what makes EMDR so comprehensive. We're not just focusing on cognition. What did you think about that? What are you thinking? We are focusing, and the protocol actually calls clients to name what the image is. What are you picturing? What do you see? And what are the thoughts that go along with that? What is triggering you right now in present day, right? When I see something, it reminds me of that. So I get a certain image, I get a certain thought. What emotions go with that? And the last thing that makes EMDR somatic is that we also check in with what are the body sensations? What is your body feeling like right now as you're recalling this memory and you're holding the image with the thought and the emotions? What body sensations come up for you? Because there are also muscle memories. So let's give this a try. I'm going to have you think of a memory. I'm going to have you think of a song from your past. Imagine a song from middle school or high school years. Maybe put it in the chat. What song is coming to mind right now? A song from that was popular in middle school or high school for you. And maybe as you're thinking of this song, you're thinking, oh yes, this is my jam. I love this song. Pour some sugar on me. Yeah. Or perhaps you thought of a song related to heartbreak or your high school sweetheart, and you're like, ugh, I feel a little cringy right now thinking about this song. Or perhaps you thought of a song that your parents always played and you're getting feelings of nostalgia, or you're getting feelings of pain, you're getting feelings of embarrassment. Oh my gosh, it was so embarrassing. My parents played this every time they dropped me off. And as you think of this song, I want you to notice how you're feeling. What emotions come up for you? Do you have any thoughts or beliefs about yourself when you think about this song? Do you have any body sensations? Do you feel more relaxed thinking about this song? Do you feel more energized thinking about this song? Do you feel more tense thinking about this song? This is just an example as we think about something, just a song, and how it can be connected to our memories, our feelings, our emotions, our body sensations, and maybe even thoughts during that time. So now let's imagine that this memory or experience overwhelms an individual. So here's a case example. And according to the AIP model, when a memory is upsetting or traumatic in a way that's overwhelming, it just overrides the system and the memory gets maladaptively stored. And when this happens, a lot of problems can occur. So I'm just using an example of a dog attack here. And let's say there is a child who's been attacked by a dog. And when they think about this memory, the image that they see is an angry dog that's snarling. The cognition is, I'm not safe. Dogs are dangerous. They're feeling scared. They're feeling fear. And maybe the body sensations are they're feeling shaky and they want to run. And let's say this gets maladaptively stored. What's going to happen? Now, every time this child sees a dog, even nice dogs, dogs that are wagging their tail, an image that still comes to their mind is mean dog. The cognition that they think is still all dogs are dangerous. All dogs. Fear and worry come up as an emotion. And perhaps now they're jumpy and heart racing because their memory network has been stored maladaptively for dogs after that upsetting and overwhelming experience. So now all dogs, nice or not nice, are dangerous. If it were stored adaptively, we would see this for a child or an individual after they've had that experience, right? Nice, they see a nice dog now, even after they've had that incident, after they had that happen, but they see a friendly dog. And their thought is, some dogs are friendly and some dogs are not. And I know how to read that now. I know when to approach a dog to pet the dog or the signs for that dog is probably not wanting to be pet or touched by me right now. So my emotions are happy when I see a dog that's wagging their tail, and my body sensation is calm or neutral. And in EMDR, with that bilateral stimulation and thinking about a memory that's maladaptively stored, our goal is to shift this image, the cognition, the emotions, and the body sensations from maladaptive to more adaptive. That's the goal in EMDR. So when we're starting EMDR therapy with children, what we begin to do is we start to figure out what are these memories? What are these core memories? And another thing we say is touchstone memory. Touchstone memory is just a fancy word or way to say that first experience, that first memory, or the most intense experience. So when we are looking at how memories are encoded and what templates have been created for us based on our experiences, Let's think about some other experiences and memories that might be stored maladaptively for children. And let's also think about maybe some somatic things and muscle memories that are happening for children and grown-ups when memories are stored maladaptively. So perhaps they're thinking, I'm not smart and I can't learn anything. And now, when they're in school, when they're at a new job, their internal dialogue is just, I'm not smart and I can't learn anything. And maybe somatically, they're a person who always has headaches, a person who's always getting sick. Perhaps a person has had experiences and memories where they have learned, I can't trust anybody. I don't trust you. I don't trust you. I don't trust anyone. Nobody can be trusted, right? And their body just can't relax. They're constantly hypervigilant. This is the most common thing I hear with kids. Their internal dialogue, their story is, I'm a bad kid and I can never do anything right, right? So these kids who feel like they're always bad, they can always do the wrong thing, oftentimes have a lot of somatic things. Maybe an example of this might be their stomach hurts, or they're having difficulty focusing or concentrating. So there's a lot of somatic things that might be happening here. So let's talk about those stuck memories. What I just explained in the past few slides was definitely more adult oriented. But let's say I'm trying to explain this to a kiddo and they're looking at me like, that was really silly. I have no idea, Christine, what you were just talking about. Maladaptive, adaptive, those are big words for me. So here are a few metaphors that I like to use to share with kids. If you are a person who is just sitting here right now thinking, what did she just say? In the last few slides, hopefully the next few examples will help you understand AIP and understand EMDR. So the most popular analogy is the poop and constipation analogy. So I tell kids, when a bunch of bad and traumatic experience happen, it's kind of like our brain gets constipated. Have you ever felt constipated? It's like all of that is stuck. So we're going to figure out what all the poopy, stinky memories are, and we're going to help your brain and your body kind of poop it all out so you don't feel so stuck and constipated. And kids always think that's hilarious. Another analogy that I often use with kids is the traffic jam analogy. Have you ever been stuck in traffic? All the roads are clogged. Maybe you have to go a different way and it takes you longer, or you're late. And this can be what happens. It's like your brain is all these freeways and they're all clogged up and you can't get from point A to point B. You can't think or make decisions or do anything because it's so clogged up, or it takes you way longer because you have to go around the longer way. So EMDR can help clear up the road and help clear up whatever is blocking the road so that you can get from point A to B fairly quickly and efficiently, and your brain and your body just functions a lot better. I like using this analogy for teens and adults, but it does work for kids because so many of our kids are now on technology, or they have smartphones or iPads. And I like using the iPad or the phone analogy. Have any of you ever had your phone run out of data? Like, too much, no more room for storage. You have to delete some photos and videos before you can do anything else on your phone. Or maybe you've had your phone have way too many apps open and your battery keeps dying and your battery isn't working and your phone isn't working as efficiently. So I always talk to kids about, have you ever had an app that didn't work? You clicked on it and it just shut down or it wasn't working, and then it'll pop up like, ready to update? Do a little bug fix here on this app. It's kind of like that. When you have maladaptive memories, it's kind of like you have a malfunctioning app. And what we're going to do is we're going to figure out what apps aren't working well, they're not working smoothly. We're going to delete that app, or we're going to get an upgrade for that app, or maybe we're going to clear some storage so that you have more energy and you can think clearly, and your phone is working, your brain, your body is working more effectively. And then, similar to the phone and app analogy, there's the computer analogy, kind of downloading things we don't need anymore, offloading things we don't need anymore, and uploading things that are more effective, uploading things that are going to help us, uploading things that are going to make us more efficient. And it's kind of like, I don't know, for those of you who have a MacBook, you ever get that reminder like the new version is available? I don't even know what I have right now on my computer, but the new version is available. Click here to update it tonight. EMDR is kind of in that way. We're taking these memories that have already happened, we're not changing them, we're not deleting them, but what we're doing is we're uploading a new version of it. So if your old version was dogs are scary, don't trust any dogs bad, dangerous, we can upload a new version. And it doesn't necessarily have to be dogs are good. I love dogs. But it can be more realistic. Some dogs are nice. Some dogs maybe be more cautious and aware. And that new version is a lot more helpful and useful than the old version that you had stored in your brain. Right? Let's do it. Phase by phase. What does it look like if a child is starting in the EMDR process? The first thing we do, similar to many other therapy modalities, is phase one is all about learning your story and your goals. We're going to figure out parts of the story for a child that has been causing them problems. And with an EMDR therapist, we're going to figure out what all those memories are. Maybe we're figuring out what those core memories are that are causing maladaptive behaviors and problems to come up. And we're going to come up with goals to help the child with that problem. So after we figure out what the problems are, what the memories are, phase two of EMDR is your EMDR therapist and child will typically figure out, all right, what are the new skills we need to learn? What are the coping skills we need to learn? Because when we go into the later phases and we select a memory to reprocess, we want to make sure the child can handle it. An example of this for a child is we need children to know what they're feeling in their body during the memory. We also want children to be able to identify what emotions they are noticing as they're thinking about the memory. And if you have a really young child that's 5, and you ask them, what feelings do you feel? Or they might not know the difference between sad, worry, or mad, right? And so in the beginning, depending on the child, the EMDR therapist is going to come up with a list of things that they're going to be preparing the child. And sometimes, I'd say most times, when you're working with children, you're also working with the grown-ups. So a child EMDR therapist is also going to be putting together a plan of things that the adults and the grown-ups supporting the child are going to need to know and learn as well. So after we learn the child's story and after we have spent a good amount of time preparing them, the preparation phase could be for some children a few weeks. The preparation phase for other children might be a few months. If these are children who have chronic trauma, maybe unstable placement, and are having a really challenging time and not receptive to learning and practicing any of the coping strategies and stabilization techniques. So it takes a little while before you get through to phase 3. But when you finally do, phases 3 through 7 are the core of standard EMDR, and they are referred to as the reprocessing phases. This is when your child is ready to select that target problem and memory they want to work on, and we're going through that evidence-based protocol that Francine Shapiro researched to make sure these can lower those PTSD symptoms, anxiety symptoms, depression symptoms in individuals. So phase 3, I like to tell kids we need to have all the ingredients for EMDR. Here's the EMDR recipe. These always go in order. When you are meeting with your therapist and they are starting to work on a target problem, you're going to identify what the problem is, that image, the unhelpful thought or the negative cognition associated with that problem, the helpful thought associated that you would want to have instead. We're also going to rate how true the thoughts feel. Either these feel all the way true or they're not feeling true at all. The reason for this is how many of us know something, but we don't feel it? Like, I know that I can do this, but I still feel nervous that I'm going to mess up. We all naturally have that. So in EMDR, we're asking children to also rate how true something feels for them. We're having them rate their emotions, and we're also having them rate how stressed the problem is feeling and where they feel it in their body. And when we ask these questions, when a trained EMDR therapist asks these questions in phase 3, what it's doing is it's activating the memory network. So let's say this memory was laying dormant. If any of you have watched Inside Out and they send the memory marble like down and it's like back in long-term memory, activating the target and asking these questions in a sequential order is helping to pull that memory from long-term memory up to the forefront so that they can kind of work on it. I don't know. And again, if you've are an Inside Out fan, it's like changing that color of that memory. Was it an angry memory, upsetting memory, traumatic memory? Can we make it a calm memory or sad memory or whatever it needs to be? All right. So once we've got that memory activated, this is where in phase 4, we're going to start the bilateral stimulation. That back and forth movement is going to happen. And hopefully by this point, the child's been introduced to EMDR, has practiced different types of bilateral stimulation, and they're choosing the one that they're going to use as they're focusing on that problem. So in phase 5 of EMDR, this is when the child completely now feels like the problem is no longer stressful. On a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is no stress or I feel neutral when I think about the memory now, and 10 is I still feel stress. It's the most stress I've ever felt in my life. Once the child gets the memory down to a 0 or a 1, we're going to move forward to phase 5, which is strengthening that positive thought or positive cognition that they had identified in the beginning. So, for example, if they thought in the beginning, I'm not safe, I can't do this, I am bad, we're going to shift them now. This is where the shift starts to happen in phase 5, where they're strengthening, I am safe now. That's over. I can do this and I have help. And I'm not a bad kid. I just made a bad choice, right? So we're really shifting them towards that in phase 5. Once the child feels like that positive cognition, I am safe now, is completely true for them, we're going to do something called a body scan. In phase 6, we explain to children sometimes our head knows something, I'm safe now. Our hearts know, I can feel calm, I am safe now. But then that memory gets activated and triggered, and my body still has a somatic response. I still get a beating heart that's super fast, or I start holding my breath, or I get sweaty. The muscle memory is still stuck. So maybe we got the constipation out of the brain and the thoughts are more aligned and adaptive now. The feelings are more aligned now, but the body sensations are still feeling distress. We continue to do back and forth movement in phase 6 to help kids move and shake any of the stress from their body so that their heart, their mind, and their body, they all match when they think about this problem now. The body also knows it's over. I am safe, so I don't have to tremble and get nervous and get a fast heart rate every time I'm reminded of this problem. So you get through those phases, you get through the thoughts, you get through the body sensations, you shake all that out, you move the child towards something more adaptive. And phase 7 is just finishing and ending. And what we do, what we call phase 7 is just closing. It's closing out the bilateral stimulation and processing something hard. So with children, we want to make sure that we're leaving enough time to help them regulate before we send them off to do something else. Maybe they're going back home, maybe they're going back into the class, maybe they are, going to a sports practice, whatever it may be. We want them to feel calm and feel like they did some good work during the reprocessing phases, but now they're just being calm. So in this phase, most kids just choose an activity that they want to do. Some kids like to make slime, some kids like to do art, some kids want to just watch a funny YouTube video to relax for a little bit, and then they go on to their next thing. In the final stage of EMDR, the phase 8 actually happens at the beginning of the following EMDR session. And this is where we review and revise. What problems or what other things came up for the child, and has a problem gotten better or worse since the last session? Were there any triggers that came up in the past week or so since they last saw you as the EMDR therapist? And if the memory target is completely cleared, we might choose another target. We might choose another problem and do the same thing again with that problem to help some of these problems become more adaptive for the child. Some common things that might happen in between sessions. Most people feel really tired after EMDR. They're thinking about this problem and they're doing bilateral stimulation. They're multitasking. It's a lot of work, especially for kids. So kids will often feel tired. Also, some kids, some people feel really energized. They've been carrying this heavy memory, this heavy experience with them every day, all day, and they finally got some relief from it. So now they feel more energized. They want to go have a dance party because they feel so good. In between sessions, some children and people may experience more vivid dreams or more nightmares. They might have more memories that are similar, kind of flood them and come back. And so this is where it's super important to have the child and parent involvement so that they can monitor and support the child and be really prepared in phase 2 with that preparation phase to help a child in the event that they start reprocessing a really hard memory and more things come up. I call it opening up that big can of worms. It's like you open the big can of worms and now all of it is spilling out and things are happening for the child. So that could also be something that happens. So as we're adapting EMDR for children in phase 1, of course, when we work with children, we're going to be using a variety of techniques: play therapy, art therapy, bibliotherapy, and we're checking in with the grown-ups rather frequently to gather more information and learn more about the child's story. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but in phase 2, as we adapt phase 2 for children, we need a lot more time with children to ensure that they have the tools that they can use to become overwhelmed. A big part of phase 2 for children is also psychoeducation, not only with the child, but also with the parents, the caregivers, and other professionals that are working with them. So if you're working with children who have experienced trauma, a big part of phase 2 is psychoeducation on trauma and trauma responses in a child-friendly way. And if we're working with children who have challenges and difficulties with communication and social skills, then phase 2 might include helping the parents and the children learn better communication skills and practice social skills. Perhaps you have a child who's dealing with anger management and parents who are also dealing with anger management. And perhaps that is a part of your plan in phase 2. So each phase 2 for children and their family is going to look different depending on what they're presenting with. Now, I mentioned before that the phases 3 through 7 are considered the reprocessing phases of EMDR. And this is where you focus on that target problem to engage children in bilateral stimulation to desensitize that problem. But depending on the age of the child and depending on the child's level of development, we need to think about children and their language development and their executive functioning. For children who are really young and for children who have experienced nonverbal or preverbal trauma before they could speak or learned how to speak, how would you expect a child to narrate or tell you a story with their words? What we typically do here is we'll have parent involvement. There are strategies in EMDR for the parent to essentially write and read the child's trauma narrative and be involved in an EMDR reprocessing session with their child for those children who are unable to speak, unable to share their story, and they usually get help from the parent. There are also advanced strategies for attachment trauma and attachment-focused EMDR, where EMDR therapists who are trained in that modality are doing a lot of attachment repair work with caregivers as well as a child, and using bilateral stimulation to enhance and repair that attachment. And for those really young kiddos, they're not going to come back and say, I remember my nightmare from 6 days ago, or I got really angry at school every single day since I last saw you and went to the principal's office. Kids, oftentimes, and the younger they are not the best reporters. So when we are in phase 8 with children, if the caregivers, if the adult or primary caregivers are available, we want to make sure that we are collaborating with them, communicating with them, and making sure that they can observe and share some of these things for children when possible, to kind of get an idea of how it went. How did it go after the last EMDR session? All right. So we are down to the final portion of our presentation for today, and you're in for a treat because the next few slides are a few clips from my sessions with children doing EMDR. The first video sample I'm going to show you is a virtual session with a 5-year-old. This was at the beginning of the pandemic, and this child learned that their grandmother, who was medically fragile, got COVID, and it wasn't looking good. So she wanted to target this problem. Mom is helping in the session, and we're using a worksheet to get phase 3. The child has filled out and gotten all the ingredients for the recipe of EMDR and got everything in order, the image, the negative thought, and so on. So here's a little snip of that. Feels funny in your body when you have these feelings of sadness or confusion? Sometimes we can feel it in our head. Sometimes we feel it in our tummy. Sometimes we feel it in our hearts.
Where do you feel it?
Mm,
In your head?
uh-huh.
Okay.
Can you help me draw in the head because your skills are so good?
So we'll draw on your head. You want to do it here?
Yeah. Oh, what? My mom's doing it so good.
There you go.
Wow. Yeah, so you have that feeling. Perfect. We have all of the things we need to get started.
Good job.
Yeah. So here's a virtual example of how you might use art and coloring and drawing to help children identify those things for EMDR before you start the bilateral stimulation to help them desensitize this problem. All right. So the next video example is showing an 11-year-old boy. This child is diagnosed with ADHD and is working on a surfing accident. I wanted to choose a video that wasn't a big traumatic thing, but just to show you an example of what this might look like for a child. So this is also a virtual session. Virtually, we used a tool online for the child to follow child-friendly eye movement. There is a little dragon I'm going to try to make go back and forth in the next few slides. So this next slide is the child choosing what target memory they're going to work on.
Tell me more about this being hit in the head by surfboard memory.
So I was surfing, and then my dad's surfboard, he was swerving away from somebody else who was coming past him, and then while he was trying to dodge him, he had to dodge me. But while he was trying to dodge him, his surfboard came loose, and I didn't see it, but I turned, and then it hit me right in the temple over here.
Did you have to go to the hospital or anything, or were you?
No, I hadn't been injured at all. I didn't even have a concussion. It was fine. It was a
Yeah.
good thing that we were going in the same direction.
Yeah. Has it made you not want to surf again, or have you been surfing again since that time?
I mean, I've surfed once, but I've always been kind of scared of surfing ever since.
Oh. Yeah, sometimes those things happen when we're surfing or when we're doing any extreme sport. We get injured because we're being active.
Yeah.
How do you feel about, we could do a little bit of EMDR on this and just like remove that fear of I'll get hurt or like something bad will happen if I go surfing again.
All right, so we selected that memory, and this next clip is about 6 minutes where the child is going to reprocess the memory of the surfing accident.
Can we do some EMDR?
Yeah. All right, you ready? You have that full screen? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have you think of this object coming at you from your peripheral really fast, and then you close your eyes. The negative thought, I'm not safe. Notice where you feel it in your body.
Ow. That really hurt.
Go with that and follow the. Okay, take a breath and let it go. What is coming up?
Pain feels less real now that I imagine it.
What's that?
And the dark, and you know how when you get hit really hard, everything kind of seems dark? It feels less dark.
Go with that. Good. Yeah.
Wow. That's helpful. Can we do another round?
Notice that it was helpful. Breath. What came up for you that round?
I can't imagine it now.
Hmm.
I'm trying and I can't.
Let's go back to the original problem of the surf accident, and what's coming up for you now?
I think I'll still always be cautious when I'm surfing, but much less so than I used to be now, I think.
Notice that. Go with that. You'll still be cautious, but not overly cautious.
Yeah.
Back and forth with your eyes. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, good job. What are you noticing now?
Wow. Kind of tired.
On a scale of 0 to 10, when you think of this problem, how stressed are you now? 10 is the most, and 0 is not that stressed.
One?
Notice that it went from a 3 to a 1, and follow the
Yippee.
B.
Okay. I'm hungry. I'm hungry.
Hungry.
I'll eat later. Um,
Before a swim.
I'll probably eat after swim because I don't have time now.
Yeah.
I have swimming in like, I'll have to. Technically my swimming starts in 10 minutes, but after this I'll get ready to go and I'll be like 15 minutes late. So not that much. It's an hour and a half practice. How does
Well,
EMDR work?
EMDR?
Yeah.
Well, it helps our brains reorganize things to think about our problems in a different way. So kind of like how you just started, like I'm not safe, I cannot, like I have to be overly cautious if I am surfing. And then we do the back and forth movement to help you work through the problem. And hopefully the positive thought that you came up with or some realizations that you make can feel more true for you and help you feel better. So for example, not being able to imagine it anymore, feeling better.
I think that the way it works is that when you're moving your eyes back and forth while simultaneously thinking about the problem, then your semi-consciousness is transferring the signal from the neurons from one side of the brain to the other, overly processing it until either the problem becomes more normal or the solution feels more doable.
That could be another way to look at it. Yeah. Yeah. It's like moving the brain.
Because the more a message
Oh,
moves, now that I think about it, that's some correct says, the more the message moves through the brain, the more it's processed. So by moving back and forth between the two halves of the brain, you're processing it.
yeah.
I understand. Yeah.
How are you feeling about your problem now?
It really seems trivial now.
It seems trivial now.
Yeah.
Does it make you feel like going surfing right away? Well, you're going to be in the water pretty soon.
Yeah. I could get out my kickboard and I could go, yeah.
Awesome. Good work, buddy.
All right. I did not ask him to say any of that. I was like, this is so perfect. I'm recording. So that was an example, it took 6 minutes. Of course, there was a little bit more preparation. We got all of the information before we started that processing. And an example of what it might look like for a child. Hi, Casey, I see you.
Yes, there are a couple of questions in the Q&A pod, so I can either hold them until a little bit later or we can answer them now, whichever you prefer.
Yeah, I'm going to show one more video and then
Yeah,
we'll take questions. Does that sound good?
sounds good.
So I wanted to share that was a reprocessing session. The movement is fast, but there is also feel good EMDR. And the next couple of videos kind of just show an example of slow back and forth movement in a child-friendly way. This next video is a child, 9-year-old, working on a fear of emetophobia, the fear of vomiting, and we're doing back and forth movement with balloons. And she's working on coping skills that she finds. Okay, so you know how in EMDR we do back and forth movement? Yeah. So we can either pass the balloon back and forth with each other, or you can pass it back and forth from yourself. We're gonna answer some of these questions, okay? You wanna roll the cue, and then you're gonna answer the question that's on it.
What resource?
So just a quick example of like slow bilaterals. The kids love the balloons. It's like keepy uppy if you love Bluey. And I have tons of balloons in the office where we're doing bilateral stimulation, both fast and slow with kids. The final video here is a 5-year-old who is struggling with selective mutism at school. She talks to me in session just fine. We're combining some CBT with art therapy and also some bilateral stimulation. So here she is drawing and trying to conquer her worry monster and worry monster thoughts. And we're doing some preparation here with bilateral stimulation to help her install some more helpful thoughts.
Okay.
Oops.
Should we do some EMDR?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll erase. That's the strongest thought we have, so it erases all of him.
That's
And
a really, what's the strong thought that we have that erases all of it? I can do hard things.
No, all three together
Mm-hmm.
is a strong one. Which side? This side?
Either side. So is there a strong thought that's really erasing all of your worry monster right now?
Yeah.
What is it?
No, the unicorn said.
The unicorn. What is the unicorn saying to erase all of the worry monster?
She said, you can do hard things. Yes, you can.
You can do hard things.
And that made the worry monster dead.
Yes,
Until
you
then,
can.
and
So she chose the unicorn stuffy to tap on her shoulders. So some tactile here with really slow BLS. Right. So that kind of wraps up today. Thank you so much for being here. Here are my Instagram handle and our website, EMDR for Kids. There are tons of resources for kids and parents, as well as advanced trainings for clinicians. And with that said, we'll move into the Q&A. I'm happy to stick around for a little bit. There are questions. Casey, are there any?
Yes, there are. There's 3 now. So the first question is, do you notice a difference between in-person sessions and online sessions? Is one better than the other?
You know, honestly, I would say it depends on the child. I have some kids who will share more in person. I also have kids and adults who feel safer at home and will share more at home and feel like it's a little bit more private and they're like, oh, someone's in the other room or somewhere else, especially if I've had children in the school setting and I'm in an office and there's other peers or administrators in the front office. It's more comfortable to be in your house and talk about problems versus in a school setting, a hospital setting, or in like a clinic setting. So it really just depends. I would also say the other difference would really depend on the situation and the parent involvement. I've had amazing sessions with young children. Some of the kids I work with have way better playrooms than I do. So we really talk to the parents about making the playroom accessible for the child during the session. The parent is involved in it and the parent is and caregiver is really helping to navigate and keep the child engaged in the session and helping with the bilateral stimulation. And similar in person. I have some parents who do better in person with guidance with the EMDR conjoint sessions. So I see both as being really beneficial, really helpful. It's also helpful because kids get sick and people get sick, but we want to make sure everyone is feeling okay. So sometimes kids will, like, I have a little fever, but I still want to do EMDR. And the parents will contact me and say, could we switch to virtual today? And so we actually do work from a hybrid model here in our practice, and we'll do in-persons as much as we can, and then virtuals as needed.
That's great. Okay, so the next question is, what do you do when a child doesn't want to participate or is having a hard time focusing on doing the DAS?
Oh, well, when a child, well, first of all, I think it goes back to phase one, and I'm really learning about the child's story. My guess is maybe there's a little trust stuff going on here. Maybe I need to spend more time in phase two, building a better relationship and trust with this child versus go ahead, do the back and forth movement. I might be spending more time in preparation phase teaching it, exploring different types. For kiddos who are more high energy, for my ADHD kiddos, I actually set up an EMDR obstacle course or EMDR stations where every single set you saw in the example with the boy in the video, he did his sets just with eye movement. He was able to do that the whole time and sustain his attention. Some kids can't do that. They can't sit still and do just one type of back and forth movement the entire session. There needs to be movement. So one kid might go over to Play-Doh and squish it back and forth. And the next set, they might go over to the musical instruments and they might shake it. And then the next set, they might ask for you to do eye movement or do some tactiles or use some buzzers. So I try to mix it up with kids to keep their attention and keep the bilateral stimulation going and moving to help them stay engaged. Something that I forgot to mention in EMDR is the way it works is it is dual attention is needed, meaning the child needs to be focusing on the memory or the problem, and they also need to be paying attention to the bilateral stimulation or engaging in it. So they need to kind of be doing both. It doesn't really work if they don't think about the problem at all and they're like, yay, fun back and forth movement. What am I working on? I'm just doing back and forth movement. It doesn't work like that. You have to have dual attention. So we actually practice that in phase two when children come in. Like, how do you pay attention to two things at once, right? How are you noticing what's happening here? And then also engaging in the BLS.
Great. And so, last question, and we're wrapping up about 5 minutes after, but from Bridget Summers, it's what type of outcomes and changes are there with EMDR for teens?
Yeah, I would say most teens can engage in EMDR closer to what adults might do. Results, I would say, vary. It depends on the type of trauma, it depends on the intensity of trauma, it depends on the relationship between the EMDR therapist and the teen, just like any therapy modality. But overall, for the teens who are engaged and are into it and like it, they have been able to make a lot of progress a lot faster. I've been able to graduate a lot of my teens from therapy after they did EMDR and before they were using a different modality. Um, and when I first got trained, I remember using it with a lot of teens, and they're like, "How come you didn't just use this with me in the beginning? It could have been, I could have been like over this by now and like played volleyball or been in the school play or moved on with my life." And so I was like, I know I wasn't trained in it yet. So it is super effective, and a lot of teens tend to like it.
Yeah. All righty. Well, there's a comment in the chat from Andrea, or maybe it's Andrea, so sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. But she said, thank you. This was so wonderful. These kids are lucky to have you. And I think that perfectly sums it up. Thank you so much for being here today, Christine, and giving your insight and your expertise. It was such an interesting training. I always love being here, in CalTrin doing my job, but it also helps me learn so much. And so I just want to thank you for being here. and being present with us and giving us all this information. And Lana has dropped a link for you all in the chat for the survey. I saw April ask if CEUs are going to be available for this training, and unfortunately they won't be, but you still can use that certificate of attendance. So that is still available for that, but just not CEUs, unfortunately. So with that being said, we will go ahead and wrap up. Thank you all for being here today, using the reactions, being very chatty in the chat. And I hope you all have a great week.
Thanks, everyone.
See you later.